Messed that one up. Put in my inputs, thought I measured it out correctly, but the average float was just a little bit too high. And instead of a factory new output, I get minimal wear. And that's all because I wasn't watching closely enough. There's a very fine line to tiptoe when doing trade-ups, specifically profitable trade-ups. But even though I screwed up a little bit, it still wasn't that much of a loss. The minimal wear, Glock 18 that I received, usually goes for around $6 to $7 on other marketplaces, but there were specific buy orders set for my float for $9, so I was able to get away with only the $2 to $3 loss. So allow me to explain why that buy order was there in the first place, and how to make sure your profitable trade-ups remain profitable. SkinSwap is a CS2 or Rust trading site where you can buy, sell, or trade your items instantly. Use code MW9 for a free skin worth up to $50 when you complete your first trade. Use the Market tab to buy skins from the Chinese market with no need for a Chinese ID or bank account. Use the Sell tab to instantly sell your skins and withdraw from a variety of methods, including PayPal, Venmo, or crypto. With the newly launched Vault system, daily, weekly, and monthly giveaways, SkinSwap is by far the most rewarding CS2 skin trading site on the market. Thank you, SkinSwap, for sponsoring this video. Trade-ups can be a game of chance, but it's up to you. You can go for lower risk and subsequently get lower rewards, or you can go for higher risk and higher rewards. But right now, there's a little bit of a gap with the new Armory collections. And this always happens when casual, regular players just buy some Armory stars, redeem them, and then sell them off. Now, there is a fundamental difference in how the market prices a skin and how the trade-up contract prices a skin, right? You not only have your price floors, but you also have words describing your quality, right? Factory new, minimal wear, field tested, etc. Trade-up contracts look at the number underlying your specific word, right? Factory new, 0 to 0.07, so on and so forth, right? When you have regular players just selling off their field tested skins, that field tested skin could be 0.151 or 0.357, right? You don't know exactly what it is, you just have that word and it puts it in that specific bucket. And that's really where your edge is if you want to search for profitable trade-ups. So I showed you what I bought around last week. Some of those skins I've kept for just play skins and to hold for a little while. But some of them, specifically the light blues, minimal wear, and blues, minimal wear, I used for trade-ups last night. I believe I did 23 trade-ups, 17 light blue to blue, 7 blue to purple. And I'll show you exactly how I turn these trade-ups into ones that are profitable. Now trade-ups with these collections are very easy, right? They're all 0 to 1. Now, it sounds easy to grasp, and it is, but not a lot of people do grasp it. For one, the easiest part is doing the actual math, right? You don't even need to use a trade-up calculator really for these types of items because they're all 0 to 1. Thus, all of your inputs need to average out below 0.07, and you're guaranteed a factory new output because all of them are also 0 to 1. That's why trade-ups were considerably harder, and thus there was more profit to make after the trade-up changes in October 2025, because not a lot of people were willing and able to do that math right away, and thus the people that were quick to it and quick to understand the new system were able to profit by the gaps in the market that the new trade-up math created. But with everything 0 to 1 now, that edge is gone, but with that edge being gone, new edges arise that you have to find. Now, the contract wants an average of under 0.07, but it doesn't care how you get there, right? You can use one 0.000000 float and then a couple of 0.15s and a couple of 0.4s. It doesn't really matter how you get there. The game doesn't care as long as your average is below that number. And that's where you're going to start to realize your advantage, right? Let's say 2 factory new skins are going for 60 cents each, right? And you buy 2 of them at 0.065 float, right? That averages out to 0.065, but if they're going for 60 cents each, well, you spent $1.20 on those 2 fillers. Let's say you use a factory new skin 0.04 and a minimal wear skin 0.09. That still averages out to 0.065, but your factory new skin is 60 cents and your minimal wear skin is going to be roughly 1/8 of that, so let's call it 7 cents. So you spent 67 cents on those 2 fillers. I say 1/8 of that because the drop rate is 3% factory new, 24% minimal wear, so 1 to 8, 8 to 1 price ratio. That's all I'm going off of for an example. Same contract, same pool of outputs, but your price is much cheaper, right? All it's doing is charging you more for the label. The floor price is always going to be more for factory new, but there are minimal wear skins that are going to be 1/8 of the price and pretty much have the same exact value when it comes down to it for trade-up contracts. So as a general rule, if you're placing buy orders on factory new skins, you're not gonna only receive 0.06x float skins. You're gonna receive some 0.04s, some 0.03s, etc. For minimal wear, you're gonna have to place some specific buy orders, but we'll get into that in a moment. The balance I've seemed to have found, which produces profitable trade ups with, not having to do too much crazy math, is 7 minimal wear skins and 3 factory new skins. The factory new skins, you're going to want to look for roughly under 0.05. For the minimal wear skins, you're going to use a very specific range, right? You're going to want to go from 0.07 to 0.09, and I'll explain that range in a second. If you do use 0.11s and 0.13s, well, you're probably going to need to use more factory new skins, maybe 5 and 5, or you're going to need to use lower float factory new skins, which typically command more of a price, so it kind of balances out itself in the end. Now I say 0.07 to 0.09 because we do know that 0.07 to 0.08 is obviously going to be better, right? You're going to need lesser factory new inputs to balance that average out to under 0.07. But here's where the problem lies, specifically with light blues, but this generally carries to every single wear within every skin that's 0 to 1. Now as we know, or maybe you don't know, each skin in the game carries a dead zone. That's what I call it because there is no really term for it. Between 0.07 and 0.08 on a 0 to 1 skin, 0.07 to 0.08 is the dead zone on a factory new skin, meaning that if you redeem a skin from the Armory and you get it minimal wear, it's never going to fall in that range. The only way you could get it in that range is if you take 10 inputs and trade up to it and get something in that range as an output. But light blues, because they're the lowest rarity within that collection, you can't trade up to it. Thus, no light blues are ever going to drop from 0.07 to 0.08. So when you place your buy orders for minimal wear for light blue to blue and it makes it a little bit harder, you're going to need to go from 0.08 to 0.09. Now this is still fairly easy to balance out with factory new skins average wise, but it does make your job a little bit harder. So think about that when you're placing your buy orders, right? Not only are you not going to receive anything if you place a buy order from 0.07 to 0.08 only, but even if you do 0.07 to 0.09 for a blue or a purple, you're going to receive much more and you're going to receive a lot more orders ordered to you if you put that range of 0.08 to 0.09 in there. If you only do 0.07 to 0.08, well, you're not really going to get too many purchases you're coming your way. Now here are my contracts. I did 17 light blue to blue trade ups, or 170 items in total. Now for most of these, I think pretty much all of them, I did 7 minimal wears and 3 factory news, with the average being under 0.07, obviously. I believe one of them I only used 2 factory news and one of them I used 4, so it balances out. The minimal wear skins I bought at around an average of 10 cents each. For the factory new skins, it ranged quite a bit, but probably around 50 to 60 cents. That comes out to $2.20 per contract with current prices right now as they stand. So roughly around $35 give or take for the entirety of the 170 items. Now people dump light blues, which makes blues go down in price because of all the trade up opportunities, but you can usually get a lot of good floats just by placing buy orders without any specific ranges, right? No one's looking at the float cap of their 12-cent skin. They list it, they sell it, they buy whatever the hell else they want, and then they move on. So the dead zone problem is not really going to be a problem here because your factory new skins are usually going to be pretty low float, right? When you place buy orders on blue factory new skins, sometimes you get a lot of 0.069, 0.068 because people are doing the trade ups from light blue to blue, which kind of skews the float ranges of the factory new blue skins. That's never going to happen with light blues, thus placing regular buy orders, you'll receive pretty much uniform range, 0.01s, 0.02s, 0.03s. So here's how the trade ups went. I got 2 of the sawdust, which were the only price-wise loss right now with current prices. I received 2 of the Arabesque Mosaic Mac 10s. I don't know if there are any good patterns. Let me know if you spot a good pattern there. Got 2 of the MP9 Spy Prototype. Got 1 of the M4 Dark Operative. That was the one we were chasing mostly, but we only received 1 of them, unfortunately. I got 3 of the FAMAS Snake Songs, which were pretty much break even also, unfortunately. I got 3 of the Tech 9 Sultan, which probably is the second best item to receive behind that M4 Dark Operative at $5 a piece. 1 of the AUG Signal Scanner, and 2 of the R8 Revolver Monarchs. If you'll notice, that adds up to 16 because I fucked up one of these trade ups too and got a blue minimal wear sawed off. So also the worst possible one to get minimal wear. Oh well. So $35 spent. I received around $60 in total if I sell these off right now. Now these aren't realized sales, and I understand that because I'll probably wait a little bit longer because I think that these blue prices are fucking extremely cheap, so I'll probably just hold on to them for a little bit longer, and I do think they'll go up in time. But with only one gun that provides a loss, the sawed-off, and it's pretty much like a 10 cent, 20 cent loss, and it only makes up around 8% of the entire output pool, that's a pretty good deal. And then I go from the blue to purple. Now the blue to purple, I put Spy and Tech in every single of the trade-ups, I believe, because the obvious item that you want to get here is the AWP black box. The AWP black box is an AWP. So, you know, just by logic, it's going to command the most amount of money. The other purples in the collections are a CZ, a Nova, P250, AUG, Glock. The Glock, maybe, whatever that you think about the skin and how it looks, the AWP is always going to command the most, even though it's basically just a slate. Now, I didn't get the AWP black box. In fact, I didn't get a single skin from the Spy and Tech collection. I just received Arabesque skins. I received 2 Glocks in factory new, 1 in minimal wear, as I alluded to earlier. I got 2 of the P250s, and I got 1 of the AUGs. The Glock, it's .007 something, right? Because I fucked up the trade up, and it's just right across that threshold of factory new to minimal wear. Now, because of that, people place buy orders, and they don't realize that the float dead zone is there. Thus, the buy orders stay pretty high. Thus, I was able to sell it for $9, and the contract cost me around 12 with all of the fillers, right? Because that item doesn't exist. It doesn't drop. You have to craft something with that range. Thus, the $9 asking price someone was paying for it is way more than the $6 to $7 it's selling for regularly in regular minimal wear float. So even if you fuck up, you still have a decent amount to recoup, right? I only lost $2, $3. In all, the blue to purple trade-ups, I made around $50 to $60 once again. So, you know, I turned a decent profit off of these trade-ups. It's decently time-consuming. It took me like an hour and a half to do the math out, but for an hour of time, $100 an hour, it's not too bad, right? Now, the easy money-making window on this collection specifically is probably closed, right? I do think if you hold some of these items, they'll start to generally increase as, you know, money comes back into the market. It's been declining over the last month or so again. So I'm not keen on really selling anything unless I think it's overpriced, right? Like I got the M4 out of a trade-up, so I sold that one immediately for $750 because that's a $5 profit. I do think the rest of the blues will trend upwards, like the AWP and the M4 will probably go down because they're play skins and thus, you know, they command higher prices for longer amounts of times. But like the P250, the AUG, the sawed off that are sitting at $1.50 factory new, like that's probably gonna go up in time. So it's not necessarily a strategy for the Armory, it's a strategy for new collections, right? You can basically apply this to any other collection too, right? Without 0 to 1 skins, but 0 to 1 makes it easier and it makes it a little bit easier for your head to understand when you're doing it actually, right? When a float range is smaller, that dead zone doesn't sit from 0.08 to 0.07. Right, it sits probably somewhere in factory new, thus you can't take advantage of that little tiny gap, thus it's not going to be as profitable. With 0 to 1 skins though, minimal wear and that little range, 0.08 to 0.09, that's going to be your best play there in terms of making profitable trade-ups, you know, at scale. Right, so set your buy orders from 0.07 to 0.09, and if you receive some skins or you fuck up a couple times and you get some minimal wear floats that are like 0.07, you can probably find yourself a nice buy order to sell into so you don't lose all of the money that you just accidentally wasted. As always, if you want to use the trade-up calculator in the video, CS2liquid.com, baby. Other than that, peace.